Welcome to The Well, where we get together and talk about life, death, and everything in between. My name is Pastor Carrie, and my favorite class of RV is Class C.
My name is Pastor Tim, and my favorite wattage of a light bulb is 75.
I don't know why that got me. My name is Jay, and my favorite brand of hat is a Richardson.
All right, sounds good. All right, well, let's meet our fourth member of our jolly group here. This is Mel. Hi, Mel. How's it going? All right. Mel lives down at the bottom of the well where we gather to have our conversations. And over the years, he has gathered many, many topics that people have talked about just in case people came by, wanted to have a fun discussion. Right, Mel? All right. So Mel goes down and gets topics for us, brings them back up, and we see what we can do with them. You want to give it a try, Mel?
But first,
Mel
Mel
made
jump
a
ahead.
mistake.
I like that move.
Mel,
I love that
Oops.
quick move.
that was a good move, Mel,
important.
but it didn't work. But I liked it.
I was on my way with my sister to go see my brother and other sister down in the suburbs of Chicago. And on our trip, there was this huge circus fire. I don't know if you saw it in the news. It was intense.
Mel, you almost saved us from that.
Mel, you knew.
He tried, didn't you, Mel? Yes, though, the joke. All right, recovered enough to, all right, cool. Here we go. Down, and it looks like he's got something for us. Here we go, Mel. All set. And to Jay.
All right.
Perfect.
Thanks, Mel.
Uh-oh.
Oh,
It's a trick one.
You get the extra
Lots
fold.
of folding.
Ooh.
All right. What is the basis of our security? When we start thinking about that question, we may give many answers: success, money, friends, property, popularity, family, connections, insurance, and so on. We may not always think that any of these forms the basis of our security, but our actions or feelings may tell us otherwise. When we start losing our money, our friends, or our popularity, our anxiety often reveals how deeply our sense of security is rooted in these things. And Henry Nouwen.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Now and bringing it
Bringing it for
this
real.
morning. Yes.
Yeah, I'll pass that around.
Yeah. All right. So I think, what he's talking about here is in the basic definition of idolatry. Very easy to condemn, but very difficult not to do. I had a professor in seminary who described it as putting your faith in anything other than Christ will ultimately disappoint. So getting your security from any of the things that are mentioned in this question, including your children, right? I mean, even including some of those things that I think we sort of deify in our culture, and nothing wrong with our children, right? But if our sole security is based in our children, it will one day disappoint us, right? It will one day let us down, because anything that isn't God will ultimately pass away, right? Fade away. There is nothing eternal besides God and the love of God. So I think it's a practice. I mean, sell all that you have, give your money to the poor, and follow me, right?
Yeah.
And I'll end on that.
Mic drop.
Having experienced total loss of most of these, even being in extreme financial hardship. We were in the middle of a move in 2008 where our house lost about a third of its value or more, where we basically had nothing. It got down to what was really important, and even been in situations where Betty and I's relationship was in really hard times. Losing those or being in a crisis situation with those can be very tough. So I don't want to lessen that, having gone through loss of family members, loss of relationships, loss
Definitely.
of my financial security. But at the loss of each of those, I'm still there. And if I put my trust in all of that stuff, it leads to a broken life. And I think we see that in the world, where you have your trust misplaced. The professor that you had, I think I had the same professor, said the same exact line.
I think that you did.
25 years apart
and,
or so.
and
but-
Jay will hear it
Yes,
in
yes.
about 6 months.
yeah, that's right. But
awesome.
but the idea that wherever we put our trust in that which will rust or rot or be stolen, in Christ, in faith, in the love of God, none of that rusts or rots or is stolen. And so, and I think that's right. The anxiety, the popularity, all of that can fade. And it really doesn't matter. That's why I think I get so, having been in basically financial ruin, I get so upset. And so you hear me talk a lot about the prosperity gospel. To me, it's so hideous and so wrong that it's pointing people at a false God and declaring this is Jesus. And to me, that is the greatest heresy in our country right now.
It's a really interesting way to look at that.
Yeah. So, but yeah, that's where I am. So yeah, having put trust in things that have faded, it's best to, and it's not easy.
When I think so, I'll say yes to the previous two. I totally agree with that, and with what each of you are saying. I 100% agree, and use that as basis for what I'm about to say, because it could sound as a contradiction, but it's not. I'm looking at the word anxiety here, and I think sometimes we can find ourselves, or we hear there's a certain form of theology that says, well, if you just believe in Jesus and get rid of all the other things, then you're fine. Or like, if you have anxiety, well, you're just not believing in Jesus enough, or you don't have enough faith, or you're not trusting. And that's why I'm saying, and not contradicting, I'm not saying any of you said that, but because of what you're saying is true, I also think there's a quote that I have saved in my phone that says, it's okay to love Jesus and have a therapist too. And
Yes, I'm an example of that.
yeah, and I think we put our trust, we put our faith in God, but we are not God. Therefore, we are still going to experience human things, and so I think we shouldn't idolize the human things, right? And I think that's where this is going, and that's why I agree 100%. I think it's important that we put our faith and our trust in God, also understanding that we're human. There's brokenness in the world, things happen, and it's okay to love Jesus and seek help for those things as well. But in my experience, I will say that if everything I put, my eggs in the family basket, or my eggs in the financial security basket, or whatever that is, I'm usually more anxious and worrying about things. But if my eggs are in the trusting in, I have it tattooed on my arm, that convinced that there's nothing that can separate me from God's love. It doesn't mean that I don't still deal with my personal mental health struggles of anxiety that I do have. It doesn't mean that I don't deal with those, but it means that I'm grounded in something that is that doesn't fade away, which is Christ. So I don't know. I just thought maybe that was worth
No, I think
noting.
that's very important. I mean,
distinction.
as we're sitting here talking, I'm one who has a medical help for my anxiety and my depression, and really do call on anybody. That's not what I'm talking about here. That's a medical situation that we have. That if you have that problem, please go get help. It's nothing to be ashamed of. I'm very willing to talk about my struggles with this. What I found is when I focus on that other stuff, and put all my eggs in those baskets.
It goes higher.
It was at that time that I was underneath the dining room table at one time. It gets
Right.
really bad, so where I just felt almost paralyzed. And so that's where when my eggs were in the wrong place.
Mm-hmm. So I love this quote though.
Yeah, it's
I do too.
really good. Yeah, I don't think I've ever heard that one from him before, and he's got a lot of really good ones. So
Might have to take a copy of that question.
yeah, absolutely.
So I have the quote.
It's going up on Jay's door.
Yes.
All right, Mel, let's you want to get another one for us? Give it a try. Here we go. All right, no more of these trick ones now. Mel. All right,
Now
here,
you're
he's
unfolding
found one,
like
I
4
think.
times.
In there.
Okay.
Oh, pretty close. Oh, it's a shorty. Those are often dangerous. Well, it's not that short. Why do Christians have pastors, shepherd, and Jewish people have rabbis, teachers? What does that say about how the two faiths think about their traditions, clergy, and lay people? Ooh, all yours.
I know I do think it's interesting. I think when I first found out that pastor meant shepherd, I was like, oh, interesting, right? What does that mean? I think that in some ways it has meant a lot of different things over the course of, as Jewish faith separated from Christian faith, it's meant a lot of things. I think in some ways Christians have gotten away from some of the wisdom teachings and the invitation into real truth-seeking dialogue that many Jewish traditions promote and actively engage in and teach people how to do. And I feel like sometimes pastors can get a little bit more into a because I said so type situation, and not so much a let's talk about this together and try and figure it out together. And I think that unfortunately in that sense then there have been traditions then in the Christian church where people are taught not to ask questions, and that it's not okay to wonder about things, and it's not okay to learn about things and hear different perspectives and dialogue together about some of the very difficult questions that Jesus didn't actually answer in our scriptures, unfortunately, right? I've got a lot of questions for Jesus. So I think that has been that's been one of the unfortunate maybe outcomes of seeing ourselves as students and teachers versus seeing ourselves as sheep and pastors. I don't know. Yeah.
I have always seen myself as a pastored rabbi because I think teaching is so important. And that goes back to my own background when I did get shut down for asking questions in the church when I was a teenager. That, I just needed to toe the company line, and we won't name that company, but, that really had me focus more on paying attention to asking the questions, to teaching, and to wrestling with the scriptures and that with people, and allowing people to ask their questions, to disagree with me. Yes, I am a shepherd, but I'm not the good shepherd. I don't have it all. And sometimes I have to say that I'm the hired hand. And maybe sometimes when things get really rough, I kind of run away and leave it to Jesus. So, but yeah, I see myself as a pastor rabbi. Maybe that's also from where I grew up in a neighborhood that was mixed, mostly Jewish and Catholic.
Right.
So that's always been important to my ministry, is the teaching aspect of it. So.
Yeah. I don't know how much I have to add to this one. Personally, I'll just say that my hope, my prayer is that there isn't as much distinction. I think,
right.
At the end of the day, if a Christian, a follower of Jesus, is to lead and learn accordingly to who Jesus was, Jesus was Jesus was both.
Right.
You know, he was a rabbi, and then he also I'm the good shepherd, right?
Right.
And so I think if we lean heavier on that and allow that to guide us, I think we'd be in a better place than maybe the global church is.
Yeah, and I think you both make a really good point about the distinction between both of those things and Jesus, right? No matter what we call ourselves, right? Sometimes I feel like that's another unfortunate thing about shepherds, is it can give the pastor the impression that that person needs to solve everybody's problems for them, right? And try and apologize, make things better, make life okay. And we as human beings are not able to make life okay, unfortunately, for
I
other
can't
people.
solve all my problems.
Right.
Well, we point to the one who ultimately
Exactly.
does, right?
That's what we do. Is we like, that's like Martin Luther said, right? That's all I'm doing up in the pulpit is I'm constantly pointing to Jesus, and that's a practice too. Yeah.
And can I add a little add here? And I think
Yeah.
Pastor Carey will agree. If you don't, that's fine. One thing that gets me so excited is when a member in a small group or in a family discussion calls me with a biblical or religious question.
Best day ever.
That gets the back of my neck all tingly and just like, yay! So that's why we're here.
Absolutely. All right. Great.
I got
question,
kind
Mel.
of tingly just thinking about it. My last call.
All right. Here we go. One more time, Mel. There we go. All right. He's getting tangled in our thing again. Here he comes. Okay. There we
Yes
go.
or no answer. Be a yes or no answer.
Okay, let's see what we've got for our last one. Thank you, Mel. Is clear doctrinal stance or an engaging religious experience more important to you when considering a church?
Sorry, I shouldn't laugh.
Is clear doctrinal stance, or engaging religious experience more important to you when considering a church? And so I think it's not saying necessarily considering a worship service. It's talking considering a church, with which worship is only part of what happens in a church. Okay. Pastor Tim first on this one. It's like a chicken and egg question, kind of, in a way.
Yeah.
I guess if I have to divide them, I have served in churches, that were clear on their doctrine. Maybe didn't have the most engaging worship service musically, or the community was kind of very
Lutheran.
Let's go. Said it before I had to.
everybody stand up and look at your feet. But to me, for me, what we say and how we say it and what we believe, the theology of the cross, the theology of grace, who we see Jesus is and how that impacts our life. If the rubber hit the road, we could be up there with a xylophone and an accordion, and it would still be fine as long as the doctrinal. So for that's it for me. I'm kind of that type of person. I love music, and I love St. Luke's music. Don't get me wrong, but I more enjoy what I hear coming out of Pastor Carey and Jay's mouth when they preach.
Don't knock the accordion.
Accordion's pretty sweet.
Yeah, this one is interesting for me because I think at the end of the day, my answer is I think a clear stance is most important to me. To the extent that I originally was like, you all know this, even people watching, if you know me even for like more than 10 minutes, like I'm pretty much all about like experiential stuff, like relationships, connection, experience is like huge for me. So that's why like it might seem like, oh, Jay's definitely going to say like religious experience. But I'm thinking back to like when I have the awesome opportunity to plan mission trips and various things, and we so often will stay at other churches and things like that. And even just to like, I didn't even know I did this till I was thinking about it right now. But even when I look to like stay at a place, I immediately go to what we believe on their website.
Totally.
And so
Always.
Yeah.
always, I mean,
First
and
place,
it's the first place. And even if it's like a transactional thing, like we're going to stay in your basement or whatever, like I'm just realizing now, like it is the first thing I do.
When I interview at a church, that's the first thing I
Yeah.
do. I look at what they, in their paperwork and in the thing, what do they believe?
What do they believe and how do they believe Jesus meets? And for me, all of us.
Yeah.
And if all isn't there, that is really, that's a non-starter for me. So I would say it definitely is clear stance. Because I am so I like to experience things. I'll say for me that if there are multiple places that have a clear stance, I'm going to go to the one where I do have a religious experience or a connection to people or whatever that is. But
I agree with that.
yeah,
Makes sense. I think this is an interesting question for the three of us to answer in the sense of more or less three clergy people, and wondering to myself
2.5.
what our average non-clergy person would answer to this. However, I will
feel good.
Yeah, I will say this though, and again, I feel like I hope I'm representing both of you as well. And the longer you've maybe done this as an immersive life calling, the more pain and brokenness and violence you've seen caused by unclear doctrinal stances or not gospel-centered doctrine. And potentially the average person who goes to church doesn't necessarily see all of that damage that's caused.
Yes. Right.
But I believe that at least for me, for sure, I've seen enough true horror and pain to say that religious experiences are great. Engaging is a wonderful thing, but everything that isn't gospel, the gospel of Jesus centered as a religious experience is at best an idol,
Right.
and at worst the devil. Well, whatever
I
that
agree.
means to you.
Yeah, there was nothing
Ooh,
like the
breathe.
contemporary worship wars that we went through back
Right.
in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, what is our experience based in? Right.
Right.
I mean, that's
true.
yeah.
Yeah. There's
It's
all
a
kinds
clear
of
stance, right?
great. Yeah. I mean, I just feel like that's, and I feel very responsible for that, in our own context, making absolutely sure that that's the first thing every time, at least as much as we can.
Yeah.
Right. I agree.
All right. Great. Oh, you know what sounds great after some really heavy doctrinal questions?
What?
Some noodles.
Oh,
I know.
yeah,
I
that
was
sounds
thinking the
great.
same
I
thing.
thought so too. Jay, if you'd like to go ahead and get us started, I will tell us what we will be eating here. I made this recipe. Again, this is from the St. Luke's Lutheran Church Centennial Cookbook from 1994. This recipe. Oh, I hope it's not too hot. Oh gosh.
Ow,
You okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're good.
Good. This is a recipe called noodle pudding, which again I chose based on its title because that's such a weird thing. And it said at the bottom of the recipe that this was a good substitute for potatoes. Like you're tired of potatoes. You can use this noodle pudding. I assume that would mean that this is a side dish. It was in the section of the cookbook called sort of miscellaneous or additional treasures. So I think that the writers of the cookbook weren't all the way sure where to put this one either. But we'll see. We can taste it and see what we think. Taste and see that the noodles are good. Yeah.
I was thinking the same thing. That you should be very scared about that.
Y'all are the
Yes.
worst. I mean that with love.
All right, noodle pudding. And again, the ingredients are so weird that I'm just interested as to how they're all going to come together here.
Cornflakes?
Before I taste
Topped
anything,
with
I will
cornflakes.
say, if I was going through the potluck line, and everybody's kind of trying to rush through the line.
Yeah.
It's hard to scoop in that type of hurry.
Oh, okay. Because you want to get plenty of that yummy
Right.
cornflake crust on
I
top.
want to get it all going here. All right, and Doug, here's your.
Hot, but not too hot.
Kind of like you can kind of hear the crunch of the cornflakes through the speakers. So, in one of our other episodes, we had a conversation bring up the question of, would you get it at a potluck? I would have a scoop of this at a potluck. I'm just going to be honest, and that whoever put this in the cookbook, I love you. I'm just going to be perfectly honest. I also would have been disappointed it wasn't cheesy potatoes. Like, if I was at the potluck line. I'm just being honest.
I would, if I went back for seconds, I would try to get some of the inner and not so much the cornflakes. I don't like the cornflakes kind of as a, I know they're trying to do a consistency thing, but they're just kind of
weird.
Weird, yeah, to me.
See, I like the cornflakes.
Yeah.
I think that was probably my favorite part.
Yeah. It's like there's butter on them too. Like, can you go wrong with putting butter on cornflakes and then baking them? Probably not.
I don't know if I would get a second helping, though. There's much better things waiting in line.
What would you rate it out of 5?
It's not a 3 for me. Let's give it a 2.5. Maybe a 2.
Will you?
Yeah, I actually just wish there was cheese actually in this. And I
That
kind of
would
thought
be-
I was going to wonder. I thought that was what I was going to think when I did the recipe itself. It's a lot of things that don't have a lot of taste in and of themselves. It's cottage cheese, sour cream, milk, noodles, salt, sugar, and cornflakes, and that's it. Right?
Sugar.
It
There's
definitely
actually
isn't.
a 4 tablespoons in a 9 by 13 pan of it. So sort of more than I would have expected or liked.
Yeah.
As I was putting it in the oven, I thought to myself, where's the cheese? I just feel like, and I do feel like, I don't know, I'd put some cheese in there if I was going to do it again.
Cheese and or more salt.
Yes, because the salt's
Less
gonna, I know it does need salt, I think. Yeah, you're right. So I would give it maybe 3.
Yeah, I'd go 3. I'll be honest though, I'd probably eat more of it.
Yeah. It doesn't taste bad. I would salt it though.
Salt it.
Some pepper, maybe some salt and pepper. Yep.
3.5. I would probably I'd get a scoop, and depending on how hungry I was, maybe go back for another.
Right.
No offense to my wife or the relatives, but I would definitely say this is from the Norwegian side of the cookbook.
It might be.
Oh, I would think so.
Yeah,
It
it's
hits all
white.
the
It's
right-
very white food. Yeah.
everything.
Yes.
for so many
And to put a little color in, we'll put in cornflakes.
Yeah. I like it.
A Midwest move.
Yeah.
All right.
I was not disappointed though.
Yeah,
No.
I will say it tasted better than I thought it was going to. I was a little bit worried about the cottage cheese
Yeah.
in a casserole. I don't know.
Well,
All right.
thanks for
Oh,
joining.
hang on one second.
Oh, what?
Jay has a
God.
God
Oh,
moment
I-
for us.
So, see, you guys try to run over my jokes. So.
Excuse me. Yeah. So, we're currently recording right at the end of July, and I had the opportunity to, or our church had the opportunity to host a youth group from Fargo, North Dakota, that was coming from Chicago, and they were stopping overnight. And I had the opportunity to be the one that met the youth group and their youth director, and it was a great experience overall because our church here at St. Luke's is able to participate and partner with a lot of other churches on our mission trips and stay there, and sometimes for the whole week. And so it was nice to be able to give back in that way. But the God moment part of it, other than being able to like be involved in community that way, was that one of my former youth, who's actually the godfather to my son, to Zayden, is actually one of this youth group's I'm going to say the word, favorite camp staff and like a youth faith mentor and youth mentor to a few of the youth, and sharing in that moment, like looking forward to seminary, and I'm excited about it. I'm also terrified, to be perfectly honest. Like, I'm just being honest about where I'm at right now, but I'm pretty terrified by the whole process right now, and to like see God at work. It wasn't me, but I got to be involved in God working, I guess through me in that moment. And like now, one of the youth are out living their faith in a way that's inspiring others, that they're 6 hours away from that camp, telling somebody random in Middleton and finding out that it was actually one of their close friends. And I think it's so cool to see how God works, and that God is still working through connections made years ago, and that God's bigger than me is my God moment for sure. Just the whole thing. I don't even know how to name an exact part of the God moment there. Just the whole thing.
So we don't usually comment on each other's God moments, but I just if I can share, Jay, that Jay's entering into seminary experience, and with all the frustration that comes with it's so much red tape, paperwork, bureaucracy, and things go wrong, and it's not your fault, but you have to do it anyway. And our good friend Jay had one of those days yesterday, I think, on multiple levels of the process.
It's true.
And I think it's very interesting, Jay, that happened to you last night.
Literally the night of all of that. Yeah, I'm getting shivers thinking about it. Maybe that's the God moment over it all.
And I have to say that was so many of those experiences as I was starting out, especially when I was particularly frustrated and particularly frightened and insecure, would be something like that. So I'm excited to hear what happens next.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks for journeying to the well with us. God's peace be with you.
The Well is a podcast of St. Luke's ELCA in Middleton, Wisconsin. You can follow for new episodes airing every other Thursday on St. Luke's website or wherever you get your podcasts. If you would like to drop a question in the Well, you can dive over to stlukes-elca.org/thewell to submit your questions there. The Well is sponsored by St. Luke's Foundation. The foundation is dedicated to leaving a legacy for future generations. You can learn more at stlukes-elca.org/foundation. Thanks for listening, and we'll meet you next time here at The Well.